They are holding the names of FBI supervisors who were involved in this, holding the names of their plants who were spying on Trump, and holding the names of countries who were colluding with Trump. That's the collusion scandal, and it's being covered up right now. And it's only Judicial Watch that's in court right now trying to get the full truth. The worst corruption scandal in American history, until I guess some more recent corruption scandals, is the targeting of President Trump, or then candidate Trump, and then later President Trump, by Obama, Biden, Hillary Clinton and company, the FBI, CIA, you name it. All the president's forces and all the president's men were going after Trump, spying on him. And they all pretended that they had justification for doing so. Well, in order to actually launch a spy operation against any citizen like this, you need what is called electronic communication to open up the counterintelligence investigation. The FBI concocts or is supposed to create one. In this case, they concocted one and guess who did the concocting? Peter Strzok, the unethical FBI agent who was a senior counterintel leader in the FBI. And we uncovered the document, which showed that the document was really lacking in terms of justification for spying on a presidential candidate, which was really quite extraordinary. But it's the founding document. It's the one the left points to, saying this is why Trump was pursued. It was legitimate. Well, when you look at the document, it's not legitimate. And when you look at it, you'll see that there's many redactions, the names of countries involved in the collusion to spy on Trump, the names of confidential sources were told. And so we pushed back. We wanted to get the access to the information. We sued, successfully got this document that Congress couldn't get, but Judicial Watch was able to get. And so we were in federal court the other day. We had an hour and a half hearing. So it was rather unusual. And it was in person. So good news is that we were able to appear in court in person. That's the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that there was an in-person court hearing, at least here in the District of Columbia, that we were involved in. So I went over to the court with our lawyer, Lauren Burke, who did an excellent job advocating for more transparency for this document. And I listened to a lawyer for the Justice Department under Biden explain to the court why we can't find out information about the countries involved or the sources involved, back and forth. So one of the things they've alleged is that there's no public interest in getting access to this information. And we think there is, obviously. Judicial Watch is the nation's leading public interest legal educational foundation. So we have millions of people that support us and follow our work. That's evidence of public interest, don't you think? And the idea that a spy operation targeting what soon turned out to be the president of the United States is not of the public interest just shows you how dishonest the Justice Department is. And I'd like to say we would have gotten a different argument from the Trump Justice Department under Barr, but we wouldn't have. So I don't want to necessarily blame Biden's administration for this, because Barr's Justice Department, Ray's FBI, was as secretive, and there's really no distinction between their what they were covering up and what we're facing here with the Biden administration now. What was interesting is we had two declarations submitted on our behalf by Kevin Brock, a former assistant director, the director of intelligence, and former principal deputy director of the National Counterterrorism Center for the FBI. He knows what he's talking about. And he looked at this electronic communication. And this is what he said. In the EC document, and I'm going to read this because I think it's important to know, because the media won't tell you about this. And this is the value of Judicial Watch, telling you things about essential essential issues related to our republic. A spy operation against a presidential candidate and the president of the United States. How did it start? Only Judicial Watch is looking into it right now. I don't know where Durham is. Do you? See, now I'm getting angry about this stuff. It's been years I'm fighting this. And we're still fighting the Justice Department over this corruption. In the so our witness here, Mr. Brock, writes, in the EC document here, the from line indicates the EC, the electronic communication, and the authorization to begin an investigation as required under FBI policy is from a part of the FBI's counterintelligence division. The contact listed is Peter Strzok. The electronic communication was drafted by Peter Strzok. The electronic communication was approved by Peter Strzok. On the face of the document produced, it appears the electronic communication then initiated a criminal FARA investigation, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Of identified members of the Trump presidential campaign was created by Peter Strzok, approved by Peter Strzok, and sent from Peter Strzok to Peter Strzok. This is not usual procedure. FBI policy prohibits an agent from initiating and approving his or her own case. Such action violates FBI oversight protocols put in place to protect the American people from an FBI agent acting unilaterally. In fact, the electronic communication does not identify any individual by name as a target of the investigation. It does not articulate any factors that address the elements as required by routine elements of law, as required by routine FBI policy and procedure and the Attorney General guidelines, and therefore does not contain sufficient justification for initiating an investigation into a U.S. person. Based on my experience, no reasonable experienced FBI counterintelligence squad supervisor in the field would have approved the electronic communication at issue here as released, which opened the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. The unredacted document released in the unredacted information released in the electronic communication document here offers no legitimate predication justifying the investigation of U.S. persons involved in the presidential campaign or subsequent FISA intercept of a U.S. person. So this is what we're fighting about. They are holding the names of FBI supervisors who were involved in this, holding the names of their plants who were spying on Trump, and holding the names of countries who were colluding with Trump. That's the collusion scandal, and it's being covered up right now, and it's only Judicial Watch that's in court right now trying to get the full truth. I don't know what Durham's been doing, as I said. We'll see if he issues a report or issues any additional indictments. Supposedly he's been finally we've gotten word there's a grand jury in operation taking testimony, but there's no indication any senior officials have been targeted or even questioned as they should have been. So it's Judicial Watch doing this basic work, and it's never going to stop. The illegal spying and targeting of innocent Americans on the wrong side of the political divide is continuing. It continued against Trump. It's continuing now using the pretext of January 6th, the disturbance, the Pelosi totalitarian committee, Star Chamber proceeding. They've begun the process to try to take up the phone records and personal internet data of other members of Congress who are Republican and anyone involved in the 1-6 controversy. And frankly, it looks like anyone who questioned the elections. So potentially thousands of Americans. And Judicial Watch highlighted this in trying to confront and get answers on Adam Schiff's spying on Rudy Giuliani. Remember, he took the phone records. He got a subpoena that was not subject to any court authorization. AT&T, like that, gave him the phone records of Rudy Giuliani, and he published them. And the phone records of Rudy Giuliani covered the phone records of lawyers for the president, journalists, and a member of Congress, namely Devin Nunes. And I've been warning, and Judicial Watch has warned you that what Schiff was doing and what Pelosi were doing was they were asserting an unbridled authority to investigate and subpoena and take any record they want related to any American citizen. And there's nothing we could do about it. And they're doing it again. So it's never been just about Trump. It's been about you. Because Trump isn't enough, because they recognize Trump is a passing figure. He may run for president again. He may be president again. I don't know. It's the movement they don't like. It's the opposition to their regime they don't like. And they will abuse the law. They don't believe in civil liberties. They don't believe in the First Amendment. If they could get away with it, they would jail you. Indeed, some of the 1-6 defendants probably shouldn't be in jail, but they're there for political purpose. purposes. So we'll see what the court does. We're asking the judge to take a look at the document and see for himself whether the material that's being withheld is properly withheld. It's only 2 or 3 pages, but we'll see what the court does. But I'm proud that Judicial Watch is in court doing, again, the basic oversight that Congress refuses to do. Obviously, the administration is covering up, and the media has zero interest in figuring it out. They still talk about Watergate like it happened yesterday, but they don't want to talk about what Obama did a few years ago targeting Trump. I mean, I just read in the news today, and I've made this point repeatedly, and I've often observed the left is more interested in attacking and taking down the statues of politicians from 150 and 200 plus years ago, as opposed to asking questions about what politicians still walking around like Obama and Biden did a few years ago or even yesterday. But Judicial Watch doesn't forget.